You know, some friendships feel like they can cross any distance, right? Well, today we're going to decode a message, a poem sent between two friends who were separated by a really long and difficult journey over 700 years ago. It's a powerful story about connection, and we're going to unpack it together.
Okay, so here it is. 4 short lines. It was written way back in the 13th century by a Korean diplomat, Jeong Hae, for his friend李起郞. Now, at first glance, it's just a bunch of ancient characters, a total mystery. But stick with me, because we're going to unlock its meaning character by character, and what we're going to find is this timeless story of a friendship that was forged in some really tough times. So, the poem jumps right in. It doesn't waste any time. The very first line starts painting this picture of a difficult, really lonely journey. It completely sets the scene and the mood for everything that's about to follow. Let's start with these first two characters. In Korean, they're pronounced gekro. So gek means a guest, or a traveler, and ro means road. Right off the bat, the poet tells us, I'm not home. I am a stranger on a long, unfamiliar path. Okay, now this next part is where it gets really interesting, because it has this brilliant double meaning. The characters Pungjin literally mean wind and dust, exactly what you'd expect on a long trip by horseback. But it's also a metaphor. Pungjin refers to the trials and the messy troubles of the world. So he's not just physically exhausted, he is world-weary. And where are all these trials, this wind and dust? Mamadou tells us, full on the horse's head. And we're not talking about just a little bit of dust here. This is an overwhelming amount. It's physically caked onto his horse, which is this powerful symbol for how completely the hardships of the road have just swallowed him up. So, when you put it all together, that first line gives us this incredibly vivid picture. You can almost feel the grit of the dust. You can feel the exhaustion of the traveler. He's so far from home, just facing the harsh realities of this long mission. Now let's move to the second line, which brings us to a specific place. This is Yeondo, which is near modern-day Beijing, and it was famous for its absolutely stunning scenery. It was actually one of the 8 great sights of the area. So the poet is setting up this really poignant contrast, right? The memory of passing through this beautiful place set against his own lonely, difficult journey. And this detail, it just perfectly illustrates how long he's been on this trip. Jianyan means last year. So he's not just thinking about something that happened a few weeks ago, he's making it clear that a lot of time has passed since he saw that beautiful landmark. This loneliness, it's been his companion for a very, very long time. Okay, so after setting the scene of just prolonged hardship, the poem completely pivots. The third line is the absolute emotional heart of this whole thing. It's a moment of pure joy that's immediately, and I mean immediately, followed by deep sorrow. This slide just breaks down the emotional whiplash of this line perfectly. It starts with songbong, we meet, a reunion after so long. Then ilso, one smile. Think about that. Not a long conversation, not a bunch of laughs, just one single precious smile between two friends. And then, just as quickly, hwanbunmyeong, we part ways again. The joy is just unbelievably brief. So in just a few characters, the poet captures the highest high and the lowest low. You feel that rush of happiness from seeing a dear friend in a foreign land, and then the immediate heartbreak of having to say goodbye almost as soon as you've said hello. And that heartbreak, you can feel it just flow directly into the final line, which gives us one of the most powerful images of sadness in the entire poem. The line kicks off with byallu, which means tears of parting. But just how sad is he? Well, the poet says his tears are yakchun, like a spring. So we're not talking about a few teardrops. We're talking about an endless, gushing source, like a natural spring just flowing and flowing from the earth. It's a beautiful and honestly devastating metaphor for just overwhelming grief. And where are all these tears falling? On his paigu, his worn-out leather coat. Now this coat is a symbol of his entire journey. It's old, it's weathered, it's been with him through all of that wind and dust we talked about. It's the physical proof of his hardship. And that brings us to the poem's incredible conclusion. His overwhelming sadness, his tears flowing like spring, are now staining the very coat that represents his long and difficult job. The emotional pain of leaving his friend is now physically marking the symbol of his hardship. It's just wow. So, what can a 700-year-old poem really teach us today? Well, it turns out a lot. This is more than just a sad story. It's a really profound look at what true connection is all about. And this analysis really hits the nail on the head.
The friendship in this poem is so powerful precisely because it was formed in the middle of all this difficulty. Jeong Hae was on a tough mission, and his friend Lee Gi-rang was a local. Their bond wasn't just convenient, it was a real, genuine human connection that crossed cultures and borders, and it gave him comfort when things were really tough.
So let's see how this all translates into some real-world wisdom. The poem teaches us about sincerity, in Korean, songshil, showing that the hardest times can often create the strongest bonds. It teaches us about gratitude, or gamsa, to cherish those small, fleeting moments, like that one single smile. It shows us empathy, berio, a connection that's so deep it doesn't even need words. And finally, it points to a kind of resilience and peace, jihae and pyeongon, that quiet strength we find when we know we're truly understood by someone even when they're far away.
But you know, in the end, this isn't just about a poem from the past. It's really a mirror for our own lives. It asks us to think about the friendships that have gotten us through our own traveler's roads. So I'll leave you with this to think about. What brief moments of connection, what single smiles, have left the biggest mark on your own journey?